changing lives.
Hello, good evening. This is Healthy Living on Hope TV. My name is Bibi. It's another beautiful Monday, and we are here today to discuss issues pertaining to our health. We are here again today with another wonderful topic, and you don't have to miss this episode because it's going to be exciting and insightful. I have with me two guests. One will be joining us via Zoom, and then one is with me here in the studio. But before I introduce them, I would like to read a quote from Ellen G. White, Ministry of Healing. It says, "Those who put their trust in Christ are not to be enslaved by any hereditary or cultivated habits of tendency. Instead of being held in bondage to the lower nature, they are to rule every appetite and passion. God has not left us to battle with evil in our own finite strength. Whatever may be our inherited or cultivated tendencies to wrong, we can overcome through the power that He is ready to impart." This is from Ellen G. White, Ministry of Healing, chapter 11, page 175 to 176. I welcome you once again to Healthy Living. This is Hope TV. My name is BBS. Today we are discussing something on Buruli Ulcer. This is a disease that has been with us for a very long time, and we don't tend to talk about it a lot. But today we are here to throw more light to educate our viewers. My guest that is with me in the studio is in the person of Mr. Samuel Chumesi. He is a registered nurse at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Hello, Samuel.
Hi.
You are most welcome.
Thank you very much.
You look very excited.
Same as you.
Right. So how has it been for you with this COVID? I know you are at the front line. How is it going?
It has not been easy though. That so far as we are dedicated to our work, we are also helping to combat this disease. And we are also always urging the public to adhere to the safety protocols that we have been always advising, always crusading. So with your help and with our help, we all can fight against this COVID. It's been stressful though.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Thank you for that. My next guest is Dr. Prince Opoku Eduse. He's a medical practitioner from Columbus, Ohio in the United States of America. He's joining us via Zoom. Hello, doctor.
Hello, Bibi. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
I'm okay. I'm surviving. We are okay. Right. It's cold here, but we're doing okay. I'm doing well.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We are really excited to have you with us.
I'm also excited to be with you.
Right, thank you.
Today.
Before we start off, we'll go for this quick break. When we come back, our discussion begins. Do not go anywhere. We shall be right back.
Hello and welcome to Calvary Hour. Calvary Hour is a magazine show that brings your way the beliefs of Adventists and what the Bible says. What do you know about the Bible? Yes, and then you get to meet some personalities who share in their experience. And what makes Calvary Hour an amazing show is that you also get to bring in your favorite songs and we'll play it out for you. Calvary Hour comes your way every Tuesday at 4 p.m. You don't want to miss it.
If you want your business to be very successful, to reach or to have the international flavor, or to transcend to your children and to your children's children and your children's children's children, the best thing to do is to bring in partnership.
You don't need money at all to be innovative.
Right.
But I'm not going to say you don't need money to start a business.
That's
a lot of people always think that yes, you need money, but even the way you go about even accessing the funds can find a solution in innovation.
doing business is about taking risk, and risk involves fear.
Okay.
Because you can never tell the end from the beginning, but you still have to do something.
If you spend out of your sales, you run a risk of not accounting for your sales. You may not know exactly how much you have sold and how much you have spent because you are mixing them up.
Meet our subject matter experts every evening on this channel, where we bring your way the Hope Business Forum version 2.0.
Hope Business Forum, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
Break. This is Healthy Living on Hope TV. My name is Bibi. Yes, we are discussing today Buruli Ulcer, and before we went on the break, I introduced my guest. I have with me one person in the studio, Mr. Samuel Chumesi. He is a registered nurse, and then the other guest is joining via Zoom. He's in the person of Dr. Prince Opoku Eduse. So stay tuned and enjoy this show. Before we start, I'll go to you, Samuel.
Yeah, okay.
We are talking about Buruli Ulcer. Yeah. What at all is Buruli Ulcer?
Okay, thank you very much. Buruli Ulcer has been with us from time immemorial. It's quite unfortunate. It has been one of the diseases that we've neglected, and also you hardly talk about it.
Sure.
Buruli Ulcer is a skin disease, a very devastating skin disease. And it's being caused by a bacteria called Mycobacterium ulcerans.
Okay.
Now, this bacteria comes from a certain group of bacterium that causes leprosy and also causes tuberculosis. So, mostly we hear of tuberculosis, you talk of leprosy, but hardly do we talk of Buruli Ulcer, that they are in the same family.
Okay.
Now, this kind of disease, as I said earlier on, has been with us since time immemorial, and it was first even detected in Australia in the year 1948. That its large number was recorded in a certain country called Uganda, in an African country called Uganda. And then it had its name Buruli from a certain region in Uganda called Buruli.
Okay.
So that's where the disease derived its name, because that was where you had a larger number of people being recorded as having that kind of condition. And so they named the condition with the name of that region in Uganda. So if you ask me what Buruli Ulcer is, a devastating skin, it affects the skin, and the organism that causes it is called Mycobacterium ulcerans. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now, let's talk about the mode of transmission. How is it transmitted, or how does a person get it?
All right. Studies have made us know that the actual mode of transmission is unclear, or is not known yet. Yes, whether through contact, through droplets. As you know, certain diseases have been transmitted through droplets, through maybe insect bites. That of Buruli Ulcer is not well known. It's not clear. Studies are still being ongoing to find out whether there is a droplet transmission, there is contact transmission. That, as I'm talking to you right now, it is still unclear. There was a study that found that there was a certain form of mosquito that possesses the DNA of the Mycobacterium ulcerans. That it has still not been proven that that mosquito or that insect causes the transmission of this infection or this disease. So as I'm talking to you right now, research is still being done to ascertain the mode of transmission of this kind of disease. Yes.
This is very serious.
It's very serious.
Let's go to Doctor. Doctor, if you can hear me, are there a group of people that are at risk of getting this Buruli Ulcer?
Yes, there's a group of people that are at risk, especially, as my brother said, like he said, we don't know how it's transmitted and all whatever stuff, so we don't know what actually causes it. But then people who are at risk are people who live in like most a humid area, like warm tropical area where it rains a lot, in like the forest region. That's why it's very, very rampant in places like Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Benin, and other those places. And studies tell us that people who are at risk normally between the ages of 5 to 15. These people are very high risk. But then at the same time, we cannot limit it to those people. Anybody can get it, depending on where you live and depending on what is causing the ulcer. So we cannot sit here and say, okay, it is because these people are at high risk, so I'm 45, I'm 50, I'm okay. No, it depends on where you live. And the mode of transmission, I mean, not the mode of transmission, what causes it? I mean, what makes it worse is where there's like stagnant water, especially in Ghana or in these places where people are clearing lands and like, clearing places for building, farming. That's where these places these diseases are at risk. That's where you can easily get the transmission. So those who are at risk are those people who live in those areas, humid area, tropical areas, warm areas, and other places, especially in our area, in our region, West African region. That's why it's very rampant in those areas.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I would like Samuel to address the issue about the signs and symptoms. I think we have some pictures that will be showing. So we'll go straight to it, Samuel.
Okay.
What are some of the signs and the symptoms?
Okay. When one is being infected with this condition, that's the Buruli ulcer, it usually starts with what you call a nodule. In African setting, the nodule is what usually starts. Now, the nodule is it's painless. So when an individual experiences this kind of symptom or sign, the nodule, he or she might just not take particular attention to it because it's painless. There's no pain associated with the nodule. So mostly it's being ignored. And as you ignore it and the disease progresses, that's where it becomes severe. So it starts with a nodule, as you can see on the screen. And it is palpable, meaning you can feel it under the skin. You can feel it under the skin, and it is firm. You get it? It is firm. And it's usually between 1 to 2 centimeters. So that's the first sign that you normally see for this condition, this infection. Then when attention is not given to it, it later progresses to what we call flake. Now the flake is, there's a well demarcated, if they can show that in the next picture, there's a well demarcated edges, and the place it is indurated as well. As you can see in the second one, it's indurated. You get it? Then the lesion starts to spread a little, now increasing in size about 5 to 15 centimeters. That is the flake formation. That is, and because it's still painless, much attention is not still given to it. You get it? So if attention is not given to it and it's not treated early, then it progresses to another stage of it. Where the lesion becomes larger, then it becomes ulcer. You get it? And when the ulcer also comes, the ulcer itself is also not painful. Why? Because the bacterium, the mycobacterium that causes the disease, it releases a certain toxin, and that toxin is called mycolactone. That mycolactone causes what we call local immunosuppression. So in normal human being or sense, when there is a change in the body system, the body reacts to it, our immune system reacts to it. But when there is an immunosuppression at the site of the infection, the body can't realize it and fight it. You get it? That's the action of the mycolactone being produced by the bacterium. So it causes the nerve damage, and you can't feel anything. There's no pain there. So mostly the person suffering from this neglects it or do not pay much attention to it because it's not painful. So when it's not being attended to and you neglect it, then the ulcer extends. Normally it affects the limbs, the arms and the legs. So the ulcer extends. Some pictures cannot be shown. It is very, very, let me say, severe. When you see it, it's very, very... It can't be shown on screen. So it starts with the nodule, gets to the flake, gets to the lesion enlarges, then the ulcer, then to the stages where it even affects the bone. Yes, because if you don't feel any pain and you still leave it there, then it will be extending. Then when it extends, it eats inside the skin into the bone. Then it affects the bone as well. So conditions like osteomyelitis also sets in. So those are the primary signs that you see in Buruli Ulcer.
Buruli Ulcer.
Yeah.
I'm in shock. Now, let's go to Doctor. Doctor, please, are there any specific investigations that are done in the hospital to arrive at the diagnosis? Because I know that most of the time it starts with, because it's the same organism with tuberculosis and leprosy, it's quite difficult to diagnose.
Yes, before I go there, let me add a little bit more to my brother's point about the pain thing. This disease is very, very smart. Let me put it that way. It's smart in a sense that what it does is, like he said, it causes immunosuppression. You know, normally when you have a wound, normal wound, that's one of the differences. That's how we diagnose it. One of the wounds, I mean, when you have a wound, what happens is the wound site sends a signal to your brain saying, hey, there's a pain here, so let the person do something about it. But what this does is, he said it suppresses the immune system. Yes, it does. And at the same time, it blocks the sensation to your brain. So you don't feel anything, just like leprosy. That's why he said it's from the bacteria, I mean, from the family of bacteria that cause leprosy. So what it does is it blocks sensation to your brain, so you don't know anything, you don't feel anything unless you see it. And majority of the time, you don't see it. By the time you realize it is just big, gigantic, huge wound. So that's one thing that we have to be very mindful of. And also, you said if there's any diagnostic tools. Right now, the problem we have is, yes, there are diagnostic tools. Well, there's something called acid-fast stain, where we take a little bit of sample, we put some chemical on it, and we can tell that, okay, based on this chemical, it is what it is. It is a disease. We also have something that we call histology. Histology means we take sample, we put it on the microscope, and we examine the tissue. That has to be done by a specialist. And the other one is we can also do wound culture. Wound culture is where we play the wound and we culture the wound for some days and see if it will grow under some certain condition. That's what we call wound culture. The other thing is the most highly sensitive one is PCR, which is what right now that's what we're using to detect the COVID-19. PCR is where we try to detect the DNA of that bacteria and see if it's really the bacteria. Now, the problem we have, like I said, this disease is mostly prevalent or is rampant in the villages, in warm, in humid areas where our people live. So the problem we have is by the time they realize, it's too late. So there are diagnostic testing that we can do to make sure we catch it sooner and start the treatment. But it depends on where it is. That's why I'm sure by the time we end, we'll be able to tell you how to prevent it and how. I don't want to go ahead. I don't want to, go before us. I want us to do it, the right way. So by the time we realize, by the time we are done, we'll be able to tell you what to do as far as treatment, as far as prevention is concerned. But to your question, is there diagnostic tools or diagnostic testing? Yes, there are tests that we can do to diagnose this disease, so that we make sure it's not maybe diabetic ulcer, it's not just ordinary boil, or it's not just ordinary, any other wound. There are tests that we can do in the laboratory, in the hospital. But most of the time, people who have seen it, in many cases, who know about it, by the time, as soon as they realize, they can tell, this is a Buruli ulcer, let's start treatment. It depends also on the expertise of the healthcare worker.
Thank you, Doctor. Right. Now, I want to put a next question. We've seen that the ulcer is very severe and it causes a lot of issues. Can it be managed at all, or can it be treated?
Yes, it can be treated. My brother gave you the sequences or the progression of the wound. It can be treated. The good news is that ordinary antimicrobial therapy is the best way to treat it. And also, it depends on the stages. There are different stages. Like stage 1, that he said it looks like it's less than 5 centimeters. Well, as soon as we see it, sometimes we may have to just open it and drain it and close it. Sometimes we may need to just put on some strong antibiotic for some weeks. It could even be up to 8 weeks So it depends on the extent or the stage of the wound. Yes, there's treatment for it. The main thing is the sooner we detect it, the sooner we can stop the progression.
Progression, sure, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll ask Samuel. I know from the medical management, we also have the nursing management aspect. If you can take us through that.
Okay, mostly because the disease affects the skin and it leads to ulcer. The basic care, nursing care given to these kind of patients is wound care.
Okay.
Yes, so basically we treat the wound. We make sure the wound doesn't extend to the other parts of the body, and we limit the spread. Then you also make sure that aside this taking care of the wound, other things that need to improve the immunity or the health status of the patient to help the wound to heal, and also prevent some disabilities that are being associated with the wound when it gets healed. Because if you do not treat it early and make sure the wound heals early, it leads to some form of deformity or disability. So mostly we do what we call the wound care. Sterilely, we make sure we clean the wound. Then, as doctor said, the patient will be encouraged to take the antibiotic treatment so that the wound will heal faster. Yes, because if it doesn't heal or you do not take good care of the wound, then the extension comes in, and later on, some of the, I don't want to talk about the complication now, maybe you get there. And if you do not take care of the wound, as I said, it will lead to certain disabilities or deformities, which both the health worker and the patient wouldn't be happy seeing that kind of complication. Yeah. So basically it's the wound care, then the nutrition, then the medical aspect of it, so that the wound will be healed.
Will heal. I've also read that, I think I should ask Doctor?
If I can add to that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Maybe I'll add it when I'm answering my question.
Doctor, please go ahead and I'll ask my question. Thank you.
Oh, I also wanted to, my brother talked about the nursing care. The other thing that we have to do is like this disease, because of the way it it can damage your skin, it can debilitate you, it can cause some, extensive damage. We need supporting care. One thing with our people is that sometimes when you have this kind of wound, people will shun you, people will, even avoid coming to you. Supporting care, psychological care is very, very important, especially, as we all know in Ghana. So main thing is whilst we're giving the medical and nursing care, we also have to support the patient, emotionally, like spiritually and psychologically, so they don't feel rejected.
Sure.
Okay.
So, doctor, to my question, I've read that there's also an aspect of surgical management as far as the wound care is concerned. Are you able to take us through that?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, research tells us that we should reserve the surgical aspect, so we really need to do it. We call something debridement or debridement. Sometimes what you have to do is that you have to look at the wound. There are sometimes the edges, or there will be some dead tissue, some necrotic tissue that needs to be removed. Otherwise, the therapy or the healing will not complete. So yeah, the surgical care, but it is recommended that we reserve that till last minute or until we really need that, because even that surgery itself, doing this, surgical care itself can also cause some other problem.
Sure.
So yes, there's surgical treatment. We call something debridement or debridement. We also call something skin graft, something that we use to protect the wound so it doesn't spread. So yes, there's a majority of times, like when it's like stage 1, well, like my brother said, just like a nodule, there's no need for surgery. Maybe we just have to open the wound, but there's no need for big surgery. But if we have like this extensive one that we see is spreading, sometimes we have to clean the edges to make sure we have fresh edges of the wound so it doesn't spread.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. The discussion is getting exciting. You can also join us with your questions or comments via WhatsApp line 0559680066, 0559680066. We are also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube via our social media handles, Hope TV GH, Hope TV GH. Before we continue, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, the discussion continues. Please stay tuned.
We want to defy our family's decision and get married or elope. I need advice. What should I do?
Please, what should I do?
How do I tell her I cheated on her months ago? I need help. What should I do?
Okay, so for me, the moment I read the story, the first thing that came to mind was, wow, knowledge is indeed power. Sometimes we go through situations because we have no knowledge of how to go about them.
If you come from a home like that, you are likely to accept anything the outsider would, direct at.
The fact that we had an interesting ceremony where a priest prayed and all of that doesn't mean that magically you have turned into something else.
If he finds his way to God, a Bible-believing church, and he goes and he wants to change, nothing is
he giving
impossible.
His properties to charity and stuff?
Oh no, why? Okay, I think this is another discussion that we will not end today, so we'll not even go into it.
Real Talk, showing this and every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Hi, how is it going with you?
Back from the break, this is Healthy Living on Hope TV. My name is Bibi. If you just joined us, we are discussing today Buruli Ulcer. We've spoken at length about it, from mode of transmission to treatment and all that. We have two special guests who are helping us to understand the topic. Mr. Samuel Chumesi, he is a registered nurse in the studio with us. And then we have a doctor all the way from the US of A, Dr. Opoku Eduse, who is also helping us to understand the topic. You can also join us, send in your questions or comments via WhatsApp line on 0559 680066. You can also watch us live on Facebook or on YouTube via our social media handle, Hope TV GH. Before we went on the break, we were discussing something about the management. And we'll go on and talk about, Doctor, can you talk to us about the prognosis of this disease?
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, the prognosis of this disease is, one good news is that the mortality rate is very, very low. Normally, people don't die from this disease, even though other complications can cause death, but this disease itself does not. The death rate is very low, and also it depends on the part of the body that's affected. The prognosis is that one thing is, like, once you get this wound, there's no reverse. You cannot reverse, you cannot get that skin back.
Okay.
But then the treatment can help you survive. The treatment can help you prevent further damage. So as far as the disease is concerned, the prognosis is, it's okay. It will not kill you per se, but then whatever damage that has caused, my brother said it can even affect the bone. We call something osteomyelitis. That's an infection of the bone. It can affect the tendons. It can affect so many things. There are some pictures that I wish you can show the pictures here, but if you can show some of them, it can affect your heel. It can any part of your body. It can cause some structural damage to your body or to your skin.
Okay.
So once we catch it sooner and we do the treatment, the better. The sooner we catch it, the sooner we start the treatment, the better. So the prognosis is okay, but then whatever is damaged will not be able to reverse.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. But as far as disease is concerned, it will not kill you per se, but it can, sometimes it can cause very, very debilitating disfiguration of your body, depending on where it's affected.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, we would like to talk about the complications. I'll start with Samuel, and then, Doctor, you can add on. So what are some of the complications that Buruli Ulcer brings about?
Okay, thank you. So as I earlier on said, if the wound is not if the condition is not detected early, then there is the spread or the extension of the wound. And later on, we try to treat it, and we try to treat the wound as well. The wound might heal. And when it heals, every wound that heals leaves scars, isn't it? Very good. That this kind of scar that forms because of the extension of the wound causes what we call contractures.
Okay.
And mostly if it affects the lens, so if it affected the arm or the limb, the upper limb, and the wound was extended, when the wound heals, it causes some, what we call the contraction, making it difficult for the individual to flex and abduct the hand. You get it? Okay. So it makes it difficult for mobility of certain parts of the body, depending on where the infection was or the person was being infected. So that's the contraction that you have. Then some form of immobility, as I said. Then there's an extension of even some people having their limbs amputated.
Oh.
Yes, because if the wound extends to certain parts of the leg, and later on it doesn't heal faster, and there's the need for us to cut or just amputate the leg, that one too is normally done, and it's a complication of the disease. So that's why we are trying to educate people to know the kind of infection that we are talking about and its consequences or its legacy that it leaves with the patient. So amputation, contractures, disabilities, and as the doctor said early on, the social stigma that attached to it. Imagine somebody who was fine without anything, now there's extension of wound all over this person. Will you even like to let this person get closer to you? In a way, if you do not allow this person closer to you, you are trying to shun the individual, and it's a form of stigma as well, you get it. So these are all some of the complications associated with the condition. You get it, yeah.
Now to doctor, do you have anything more to add regarding the complications?
Yeah, like he said, depending on where the wound is, sometimes, I mean, we understand sometimes, even if it happens to your perineal area, like your private area, that can cause a lot of damage, especially sometimes in those places you cannot do any surgery. So like my brother said, early detection is the main key. Like sometimes too, I've seen somebody in one of the pictures, like it's like almost on the right side of the face, including the orbital, like the eye area. So, and one thing is like sometimes too, like he said, there's a need for amputation. Why? Because we want to prevent further damage. We want to prevent further damage. So the best solution might be just to amputate. So, like he said, this is very debilitating disease. And it's unfortunate, we don't know the exact cause. We don't know. So right now you're thinking about maybe developing a vaccine for for this. They try to use the BCG, the TB vaccine, but according to research, it only lasts for between 6 and 12 months as protection. And they did not study the long-term effect or the long-term benefit of the vaccine. And right now, as you speak, I know if they bring that vaccine to Ghana, people are going to say, no, it's they're trying to buy our mind. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, some people are going to say 666. Maybe that we will talk about that in our next discussion. But what I'm saying is, right now, we don't know the exact cure for that. We don't know the exact prevention, except maybe, making sure there's no stagnant water where you live. If you go into, maybe we'll talk about our prevention. I don't want to go there. Yeah. So, yes, it's very debilitating. It can cause a lot of structural damage, like my brother said.
Now, I've seen a lot of cases of Buruli ulcer, and I know that the wound takes a very long time to heal. How long, like averagely, how long does the wound take to heal?
Well, it depends on the extent of the wound. It depends on the stage of the wound. But it's recommended that at least antibiotic treatment takes about 8 weeks.
Okay.
So just imagine treating a wound for 8 weeks. So sometimes when you can treat a wound, you might have a relapse. So for me to sit here and say it will take 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 months, it will be very hard. It depends on the wound. It depends on how soon we detect it, and it depends on how soon we start the treatment. So it all depends on so many circumstances.
All right. Okay. Now, Samuel, you want to add something?
Yeah. As Dr. Radley said, normally it takes that period of time, 8 weeks, for it to heal. Now, if the person who is infected also doesn't take good care of the wound, it causes extension of the time that the wound will heal.
Okay.
And one specific thing about Buruli ulcer, the ulcer itself, is that the wound, the edges are undermined, meaning the wound is being hidden under the skin. The one that you see, yes, you can clean, you can just take good care of it. That if you do not have that idea that this kind of ulcer, there is an underlying edges, you will just treat where you are, you just see that forsaking or forgetting about the underlying areas. So later on, those edges that you neglected or you didn't take particular notice on will resurface. That's where the relapse comes in. You get it. So normally by 8 weeks, adhering to your antibiotic treatments, the hygiene protocol, everything. If you strictly follow it, by 8 weeks, you see improvement and the healing will start to take place. Yeah.
Okay, now since you've mentioned it, for the treatment, can it be on OPD basis or someone needs to be on admission for close monitoring or something like that? Okay,
so depending on the stage at which the individual is, will determine whether this individual needs admission or not. Mostly it's treated in an OPD basis. The individual is being scheduled for a certain period of time to come for dressings and also ensure that the treatment, the antibiotic treatment is ongoing. That when it gets to the time that, as I said, the individual now require amputation, the wound has been extended, this individual needs to be hospitalized because other organs might have been affected. So this person has to be hospitalized, then being taken care of.
Yeah, if I can ask
doctor.
more to that. Yeah. Also, like my brother said, it depends on the person. Sometimes we also look at a person level of education. We also look at a person's compliance, because of the compliance is how the person is going to be compliant with taking the medicine every day. That's what will determine whether you need to admit a person or it has to be OPD basis. If somebody comes in, maybe they come from a poor family, you can tell that they won't even know how to administer the medication. You would think you're giving them medicine. If you are not lucky, they may think, oh, okay, if I take one and it's helping, why don't I take 3 and see if it will heal faster? So we look at so many things, taking into consideration before we decide whether to do this as an in-house. Sometimes when you look at the wound, you can say that, no, the person needs to stay in the hospital so that we can take good care of the person, like hygiene-wise, wound care, everything that's involved, and even nutrition. So many things, so many factors come in when it comes to the treatment.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. So now let's see this. If someone suspects or sees this kind of nodule or plague or whatever on the skin, what's the first thing the person is supposed to do? Maybe Samuel will answer, then doctor can add on.
Okay, so because of the nature of this condition, normally we don't advise home-based treatment. So the advice normally that we give is just report to the nearest health center or the facility. That's where the early detection comes in, so that you'll be able to detect the kind of actual infection or condition that you have. You'll be able to differentiate it from other conditions as well. Because normally people mistake it for a boil or any other sort of condition. So if you visit the nearest health center, it will be able to help you and us to also detect the kind of condition that you have. And if it's Buruli ulcer, you can easily take it from there. So we don't advise the home-based treatment.
All right, doctor. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that, like my brother said, the sooner, like I said before, the sooner we detect it, the better to treat it. Sometimes it could be, some people can mistake it for, like he said, a boil. Oh, let me treat this is just a boil. Let me put this local medication on it. Local, what is called the thing that we grind in, like that brown thing. What is it? Tinkalon? Yeah. Let me use Tinkalon. Yeah, for it. Yeah. Or I think it was just a wound. Let me put a tampon on it, and so many things. So that's the problem. That's the main reason why sometimes by the time we the health professionals detect it, probably it's too late, or you know, it has spread or has gone further, because people take it for any other disease. But if we can see it, if we can detect it sooner, especially when it's less than 5 centimeters, it's very easy to treat it and does not cause any structural damage. But if we don't detect it sooner, then we have a problem. So the only thing we have to advise our people, maybe someday, I mean, a time may come, we have to do this in trees so people understand it further, so that they can understand exactly what we are talking about. Because somebody living in Trimberry or somewhere who doesn't even have access to or who does not speak English will not understand what we're saying. But what I'm trying to say, maybe we can talk about that later. The sooner we detect it, the better to treat it. It's very, very important, because if we see it sooner and we treat it, you can be sure that you will not have any ramification or any other effect. But if we wait until it's too late, it might affect the tendons, it might affect the bones, it might affect so many things, and that's what will lead to the contractures, like my brother was saying. So the sooner we detect it, the better.
All right. As I said earlier, we are talking about Buruli Ulcer. You can send in your questions or comments via WhatsApp line 0559680066. We are also streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube via social media handles Hope TV GH. We would have to go for a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our discussion. Please stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is Healthy Living.
In Exodus 25, God called Moses to the top of the mountain, and he showed him the whole business of the sanctuary.
And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them.
If it had not been for sin, the sanctuary would have been in heaven alone.
When sin came and we were separated, what God had to do was to bring man back to himself. And that is what God did through the sanctuary.
It is through the sanctuary that we have gotten what we know today is our temples, our synagogues, and all the names that you can make out of.
What in the world is happening to our churches? A sinner who is coming before God to ask for forgiveness, and you are dancing and jumping
in the name of
praising Him. When angels are prostrating. If we want to find God, we have to go through the sanctuary, because He is in the sanctuary.
Join us as we bring your way with the message of the gospel in symbols, the sanctuary.
The Sanctuary Trumpet. You will not want to miss an episode.
This is my story and the story of women everywhere.
Your ability to be prepared and then an opportunity that will come your way.
It has to do with determination and being focused. No matter what it is or no matter what happens along the way, you will still remain focused.
You must not compare your life with things you see in the movies. It is the story of women taking control of their own destiny. Women of courage, passion, persistence, innovation, compassion, and determination.
When you look at the word wife, W means wisdom. So when you're about a warrior, you have to be very wise.
Superwoman. It's about those who dare to break barriers. We rise, we fall, but what's important is that we find our inner strength and stand tall. Women, know your value, wear your crown, write your own story. We believe there's no limit to what you accomplish. Watch Superwomen on this station as women empower other women.
Back from the break. This is Healthy Living. We are discussing Buruli Ulcer. If you just joined us, we've spoken a lot, but we are still streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. You can go and catch what you missed. We have some questions that we need to read. So from our viewer, he says, thank you very much for this very educating program. May I know to what extent this type of ulcer can affect the vital organs of the body? So that's to Doctor. Doctor, one of our viewers wants to know to what extent the ulcer can affect the vital organs of the body.
Like I said, thank you very much for the question. A good question. I said before, most of the time, as my brother said, this disease, it affects the limbs, like the legs and the arms. It can affect the other part of the body. So it depends on which part of the body contracted disease.
Okay.
It can affect your face. So you know that if it affects your face, it means it's going towards your eye, and it can affect your nose. It can affect your ears. Even if it affects your private part, you know the damage it can cause. So it depends. It can cause severe damage to all these vital organs, but most of the time it is it's outside. It's not the internal organs. We're not talking about your heart. We're not talking about your liver. We're not talking about your kidney. It's a skin disease. So it starts from outside. But I'm sure if as time progresses, other diseases can other infection can set in that can affect your other vital organs. Say if you can have some infection of your kidney based on where the disease is. Let's say if it affect on the lower part of your body, and it keep going in, keep digging in. This is just like what we call flesh eating bacteria. It eats the flesh. So the deeper it goes, the worse it becomes. So it can affect any other vital organs depending on where it is.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for that. We have some comments. Our brother Edu Safohini says, great discussion. Thank you, brother. Alvaro says, nice education. Thank you, bosses. Thank you to Alvaro for your comment. I have another comment from Dr. Samuel Thurman. He says, we salute you. Doctor, we salute you too. Thank you for joining us and sending in your comments.
Thank you.
So we will be discussing the prevention, which I believe is very important at this stage, so that if we prevent it, we don't get it at all to progress to all these stages. So I'll start with Samuel. How do we prevent this Buruli ulcer?
Thank you. Buruli ulcer, because the mode of transmission is still not clear, it is very difficult to pinpoint. Normally, when you know the mode of transmission, then you can target where the disease is spreading so that you can prevent it.
That's right.
But in this situation, it's difficult to find out whether it's from droplets or it's from contact or anything. But what you can do, you normally find is that, as Doctor said when he started with his submissions, it's found in areas, normally common with areas where there is stagnant water, humid areas. So those who found around those areas are normally advised to wear protective clothing. Because studies have shown that the bacteria lives in certain aquatic animals. So if you live in these kind of areas, then there's a need for you to protect yourself when you are walking around that area. So wearing protective clothing, not swimming in any stagnant water, making sure personally you keep yourself, you ensure personal hygiene. These things will help prevent the condition, the Buruli ulcer. And mostly those areas that have been designated as endemic areas, if you find yourself to be in these kind of areas, then you have to take good care of yourself in wearing these protective clothing when you are working around those areas. And in Ghana, there are a lot of districts that have been noted to be an endemic areas, and we need to take good care of ourselves.
Sure. So, Doctor, anything you may want to add?
Yes. Yeah, one thing is I think they did some research. I was reading the literature. They did some research, and they found that sometimes it can be caused. It's easy transmitted through compromised skin. Like let's say you have a wound or a skin scratch on your body. From the studies, it appears it is easy for the bacteria to enter through that. How they found out was that they did a study and they inoculated or they injected a guinea pig with a live bacteria.
Okay.
Right. They intentionally cut the guinea pig's skin and injected the bacteria into that skin. What they found was that this did not cause the Buruli ulcer.
Okay.
Meaning, when there's a skin scratch, when there's a wound, or when there's like, especially people, those of our people who live in the village or who live in these areas in the farm without wearing protective gear, without protecting themselves, when there's a skin scratch, they don't take good care of it. So the next day, next 3 days, they go to farm, they walk in the same water. It means it is easier for the organism or for the bacteria to enter the skin that is already compromised, or that is more like that already has a wound. So main thing is like wear, my brother said, wear protective clothing. Protect yourself. If you go to the farm and there's a skin scrape, take good care of it as soon as possible. If you have to put a Band-Aid on it, cover it so that it doesn't become an entry point for this bacteria.
Okay.
Because like he said, we don't know. It could be mosquitoes. It can be so many things. So let's try to avoid stagnant waters. Walking barefooted in these kind of muddy areas can cause this. Can aggravate, or it can increase the chance of getting this bacteria.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. I think our time is our time is running out. So, Samuel, I'll let you give us your last words.
Okay. As we discussed, Buruli ulcer is a condition or disease that has been with us for a very long period of time, and since we've neglected it, we do not think it's still with us. But we are here to tell you that it's still here with us, and we need to take very good care of ourselves. And the key thing that we want to educate ourselves about this condition is early detection. Report early to the various hospital facilities around you for the doctors or the health workers to detect the kind of infection that you are having, so that when you detect it early, you can treat it early, and those deformities, disabilities, or the complications associated with the conditions wouldn't be something that patients will be having. Yeah.
Thank you so much. To Doctor, please, your last words.
My last word is Buruli ulcer is a very devastating disease. Research tells us that it's number 3 bacterial infection in our area, or in the world, especially in the endemic area. We should not treat it like normal boil. We should not take it for granted. We should not blame it on anybody. Sometimes, and I always talk about this here. Sometimes we tend to blame witches and all those for too much. I don't know why we blame everything on these people. We wait and say, oh, okay, because last time they went to farm and they said, okay, you wait and you see. So that's why I have this ulcer, non-healing ulcer on my leg. No, everything there's a cure for almost every disease. There's cure or there's treatment. They may not be complete cure, but this disease will not kill you if you detect it sooner. It will not cause any major harm if you detect it sooner and treat it. So if you're listening to us, just make sure you get the treatment as soon as possible. If there's any lesion, any wound, anything on your leg, your hands, anything that you don't understand, seek medical attention, because there is treatment these days because of technology and science. There's treatment for almost everything. So seek medical attention. If you're listening to me and then you have your old lady, your sister, your brother in the village, let them know that this disease is very serious. It is not reversible, but you can prevent it. You can get treatment so that it doesn't cause any permanent damage to your skin or your body. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, before you go, I want you to say a few shout-outs to your family in Ghana.
Oh, okay. All right. I want to say my father, Mr. Champon, and my mother, Ms. Comfort Owusu, my sisters, everybody in Kumasi. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. I'll see you all hopefully in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time.
Okay, Doctor. And thank you all so much for joining us. To Mr. Samuel Chumesi, thank you for coming all the way to the studio for this education. And then to Dr. Prince Opoku Eduse, we would like to say a big thank you to you for joining us via Zoom, for making time for us. May the Lord richly bless you. And to you, our viewers, thank you for making time to watch us. We will be on your screens same time next week from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. This has been Healthy Living. My name is Bibi. Take good care of yourselves and remember that COVID-19 is real. Please mask up, maintain your distance if you find yourself in a crowded area. Keep washing your hands under running water with soap. If you don't have running water and soap, please remember to use your alcohol-based hand sanitizers. And I know that we can all pull through and become victorious. Take good care of yourselves. Take care and remember that God loves you. Have a good night.
How is it going with you? Yes, you. Are you distressed? Are you emotionally down? Are you thinking about suicide? Are you addicted to something that you can't let go? Hold on. There is hope. Hope Channel is bringing you a program called Wounds of the Heart. A program where we're going to help you overcome all those situations you're going through. A program that we're going to help you to be emotionally stable. A program that we're going to help you fix that relationship that is almost broken. If you find yourself in any of these, I would like you to hashtag your issue to Hope TV GH on all our social media handles. Or call me, Chaplain B.